Hey guys, welcome back. It's Christina. I am so excited that you are tuning in today. I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We've grown tremendously this past year, and it's all thanks to you guys as an audience. That being said, I wanted to just remark and remind you guys that I am not editing any of these stories for content. It's really important to the integrity of the show that each storyteller that comes on to share their experience gets a chance to do so without me editing for opinions or things like that. So I think it's just only fair that people get to tell their stories authentically. If you have a story to share, you can go to our website at sasquatchandsourdough.com. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get into the show. Well, welcome back to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I am your host, Christina, and I am so incredibly excited to have this conversation tonight with my friend, Nick. You might know him possibly from Kevlar Joe Coffee, but hopefully you know him because he runs the amazing coffee meme page, Coffee Core. Nick, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. You've been very patient and flexible with my schedule, so I really appreciate it.
Oh,
like
well.
Saying earlier, you've been trying to get me on for 6 months.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all God's timing. Like
yeah,
the story
absolutely.
the story will be unfolding as it needs to be unfolding. But you've been really busy because you just had a baby and you've got a lot of stuff going on. So I think you're allowed.
I was gonna say, yeah, baby number 6.
Oh my gosh.
I'm fostering, so it definitely keeps us busy.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stay, like I said earlier, I'm just trying to stay above water right now.
I don't know how you do it.
Well, it's the coffee. Like,
yeah,
again,
it's the coffee.
At 7:40 at night. So.
Oh my gosh, you are insane. It is because it's nighttime. I would not sleep.
On the edge.
You are. This is crazy. So I found you from your meme page because it's everything that I love. It's coffee and Jesus and metal, pretty much. So all three of those amazing things. It's like so niche. I love it.
So whenever I decided to start a coffee business, I was trying to figure out what to do. And everyone always says, just do what you love. And I thought, like, I love coffee, so I guess I'll just start roasting coffee. So I actually went onto Amazon, and this is when I was quarantined at one point. And I ordered a simple coffee roaster. It looks like one of those stir crazy popcorn poppers. Like, it stirs the beans and just roasts them. And
cool.
I ordered a how-to book, and I just learned it in the kitchen. And before that, I learned how to roast coffee on a cast iron skillet. But I didn't know that it smokes really bad. So the whole house got really smoky, and so my wife was not a fan of that. And so I transitioned to getting a stir roaster after that. But I get so distracted, and I go down so many different rabbit holes, so forgive me.
No, that's fine.
Story. But, as time went on, and I'm currently now in a hiatus with the business, I use it for memes, the Instagram page. I use it for memes. I use it for talk to my friends and follow awesome podcasts like your own. And I just didn't want to give up on it, but I just started sharing memes randomly for fun. And then my followers went from like 700 to 3,000, which really stunk because I could have used those followers when I had a business that was active. But I just started. I like metal and Jesus and Lord of the Rings. And I just kind of started posting whatever I wanted instead of feeling like I had to kind of post to like a niche crowd necessarily at the time.
Yeah.
And so I just post coffee things with metal feels. So that's what I do.
It's my favorite. And
I appreciate it.
This is something that's really, I don't know. For some reason, I thought it was just me that had experienced this phenomenon. Because, we talk about like weird phenomenon over here on this pod.
Yeah.
But the whole like 3 coffees, no food, no lunch thing is really getting traction. And I find that the most relatable thing ever, because usually, like, I mean, most people, I think, probably know, like listeners, that I'm production assistant at church. So
Mhm.
Sunday morning, like, call time is insane. So I am like drinking a ton of coffee and not eating,
Oh yeah,
until after church. And that hits. Like, it
it
totally,
does.
it is insane how relatable that feeling is, where you're just like, guys, hey, what? Huh? No,
All over the place.
it's
And
just
that's
insane.
why that's why as reasonable adults, we need to have a good routine so we don't end up doing stuff like that. But it
Exactly.
still happens.
I feel like sometimes people are like, what is the matter with you? Like, are you not on your meds? Like,
Yep, I get that. That's my wife.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
I know. But no, I think it's funny because I mean, I obviously love coffee too, but like, I never really considered doing anything like on my own, like roasting it or anything like that. So definitely high praise to you, because you like just started a whole adventure, and I love that.
Yeah, it was awesome because now I have all the equipment, as you can see behind me, like
Yeah.
big grinders, big roasters. Um, but it's a hobby now, and I can't go back to buying store bought coffee. It just doesn't taste the same. So if I
Wow.
can do some coffee nerd talk real quick.
Yes,
So
please.
when you roast your own coffee, um, it's super fresh because you get it green. The beans they smell like grass, like they're super fresh. And so when you roast it, so here's an interesting tidbit. So when you roast the coffee, so it's burning, you're burning it as it rotates. It releases oil. There's two layers of oil on the inside, so it releases different flavoring, but it also releases CO2. So once you're done
Mm,
roasting the coffee, you have to let it sit for, different people do different days. Like if you see a company that says, "Hey, we roast and grind the same day and ship it out," I don't. That's not good because the longer the CO2 leaks out of the beans, basically it's kind of like aging alcohol or something like that. Like you're letting it sit and like it ages and gets better or whatever. Um, the longer you let it degas your coffee beans, the better it tastes. It brings out all the flavors and um, the roast profile. It's bolder. So I would let my beans sit for like 7 days.
oh,
There's
wow.
something called like the Malaysian method, which is like 39 days of just letting it degas before you grind it. Because if you grind it too soon, it stops the degassing process, which stops the flavoring. Um,
Gotcha.
so that's why I don't even know why I'm doing this, but anyways,
No,
now
it's
that I make my own
fascinating.
coffee, I can't I can't drink store bought coffee because typically like Folgers they brag about well okay sorry not to throw out names but like the big brands they roast and grind the same day, and that's why it tastes like dirt water. Um,
I grew up on Folgers in the 80s. Like,
yeah,
and I'm sorry, but yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Cause like I
I thought
grew
you were
up
about to
with
come at
like
me like this is that like that's your childhood or something.
freeze dried Folgers crystals. Like, ew. When you think about it now, I get it. Like, I love good coffee. Like, my son, my 10-year-old, also apparently loves good coffee. Like, he has decaf. I'm
Hmm.
not a terrible mother, but
Oh well,
it's like,
okay, yeah,
let the
I get
child
that.
have the decaf.
All my children drink coffee with me, so I'll give them like a little bit of coffee, a little bit, and I'll put tons of milk
Hmm.
in it, but it's definitely caffeinated.
Oh,
So we
yeah,
definitely have coffee time. But
yeah.
I was going to say, when you buy store bought coffee, it's typically on that shelf for 3 to 12. No, it's sitting in a warehouse for 3 to 12 months before it's on that shelf.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so unless you get from like a local roaster or something like
Yeah.
your coffee's gonna be stale, it might be moldy. So when you buy from a local coffee roaster, it's super fresh. It's not gonna be stale. It's not gonna be moldy. It's just gonna taste good. So,
And
anyways,
we
that's
have
that's
one
my
here.
coffee rant.
No,
So
thank you, because that's important to me, and hopefully to all of my listeners. I want to hear what everybody thinks about coffee, because I never would have thought of that. You think, um, I guess you kind of think like, okay, well, I'm safe getting this brand, because there's certain brands. I mean, I get my coffee at Walmart, because
mhm.
sometimes I'm just like, I can't spend 10, 12,
Oh yeah, you can't.
15, $30 on a
And
bag of coffee.
I'm not putting down anybody who's
Yeah.
I get it. Like you can't spend $30 on a pound of coffee or something like that because
No.
it's single origin, ethical, and made in
Right.
someone's backyard. I get that. I definitely get
Yeah.
it.
But I definitely I never thought about that because we have a local like we have like a Zeke's coffee here, and they do it all in house, and it's awesome. But it's still also kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, well, I'm just lazy and I'm at Walmart and
Yeah.
here's Black Rifle Tactical Swatch. That's what I drink.
Yes, I do like their bags for that.
That's really good.
It is
Okay, well, before we move on, I do have a question for you because everyone gets a weird question. What do you think about pumpkin spice lattes and the whole jazz about pumpkin spice? Are you a fan?
So I'm very basic, and yes, I do drink seasonally. I will drink pumpkin flavored coffee.
Okay.
I typically avoid the lattes because I'm trying to keep the dairy out of me 'cause it doesn't agree with my stomach very well.
Yeah. No.
But I will. I actually perfected a few different pumpkin spice flavored coffees, and they sold really good
Nice.
during the fall season. But I enjoy it. I will drink it. So
Okay. Good. Well,
I
welcome
think
because
it's
I love
just
pumpkin spice.
I don't know if it's nostalgia or it's a season or what, but I do. So
Yeah. I tend to like pour cinnamon all over my coffee too. So like because I do pour over and everyone makes fun of me. I'm the only coffee drinker. Well, now my son is, but my husband doesn't drink coffee. So when like I have people come and
it's
like
never
my
too late for the
mom,
guy.
huh?
It's never too late for him. We can pray for
I
him.
know he just doesn't. I don't think he likes the effect. He doesn't like feeling. He's very very like even keeled.
Is he
Like
sensitive to like all the caffeine?
I don't know because he drinks green tea and I'm like, dude, green tea hits it different. Like
Yeah, get him in here. I need to ask him some questions. No, it's funny because I drink dark roast typically, and that has
mm-hmm.
less caffeine because the darker it is, the longer it's cooked. So more caffeine
Oh,
and more vitamins and minerals that are in coffee are burnt away.
I
So
didn't think
that's
about
why
that.
tea usually has a stronger caffeine hit because you're not cooking it the way you are coffee. So
Yeah. Sometimes I'll drink tea and I terrify myself. Like the effect. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
yeah,
I
sometimes
have ADHD right now.
yeah, no, I kid you not. Sometimes I'll get more of a caffeine hit definitely from tea than coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Well good. I'm glad that you like pumpkin spice and I can't wait for that to come back because I just pour like I said just like over the pour over and stuff like that. So while I was saying like my mom will come and stay and she's like, "Do you have like normal like where's your Keurig?" And I'm like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
no.
Wait, so
No
you do a
Keurigs."
pour over at home?
Yeah, so I have like a little it's really I have it really kind of it's so lazy and ridiculous. It's like the top of the pour over thing
Yeah,
and I just put it on a cup. I put it over a cup and then I just put the coffee and then I
that's perfect. Yeah.
because my container thing broke, like it fell on we have like a really crazy like granite floor and so
Mhm.
it shattered on the floor one time and I was like
Oh,
I'm not doing
nice.
this again. So now I
Right.
have like a mug and that's it. So my mom's
That's all
always
you
like
need, though, right?
it takes 30 minutes for you to make a cup of coffee and I'm like it's worth it. It's worth it.
It's like doing it on the French press. Absolutely. I
I loved the French press. Yeah.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
So I have one of the pour over glasses things that you have. I never do it because I'm lazy. But I used to, like whenever I went to Starbucks in the past, I would always ask for a pour over, and
Mhm.
they I don't know where like they just don't do it anymore. They always I don't know if you
Hmm.
ever go to Starbucks and ask for pour over, but that used to be an option because they
Really?
only wanted dark roast.
Mhm.
And they would offer like, well, what about a clover or an Americana? And I'm like, no, that's not a pour over. There's a
Yeah.
massive difference. And now I just sound really snobby to anyone who's not like a coffee person. But
I just
it
like that
gets
you're
bad
hating on
though.
Starbucks. That's fine.
You know what?
I said I like that you're hating on Starbucks. That's fine.
Well, it gets really bad though because when they do know how to do it, you can hear them groan like over like the intercom. I'm like, can I get a pour over? And they're like, yes, fine. And I'm like, geez, that's your job.
This is your whole job, Starbucks. You are a coffee business. Oh my gosh.
But
Well,
I will admit though that when it comes to like a generic like if I want a good dark roast coffee,
mhm.
Starbucks does a really good job with their Sumatra, um, and their Italian roast. So
Okay, good to know. I yeah, I love coffee. So anyone that's not following Coffee Core on Instagram,
oh
stop
yeah,
right now
by the way,
and go find and do it. Do it now because I will just keep sharing all of your content because I love it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, I think like you had a really good instinct to just kind of stick with the authenticity, because I find that like I mean I didn't know exactly how I was going to do things, you know. It's challenging to create content and to get
Mhm.
into that. You definitely get into this like habit of feeling like you have to constantly produce, but then you burn out and your
Oh yeah.
content is not relatable. So it's like
Hmm.
you can't over try. You just kind of have to do what feels right, and then just the people will find you. Like that's just kind of the way the algorithm works and all that stuff.
Somebody had asked me the other day, like how do I feel about trying to get followers, or how do I feel about um, making the content just right? And that's what I told them was I just be me and I share what I like, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes it fun. So it's not stressful. I don't feel like I have necessarily, and granted, like I don't feel like I'm trying to appease customers, like with a product. I just
Mm-hmm.
know what Nick likes, and so it's easier that way. And if people like it, they like it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I hope you start producing coffee soon. I know that it's all God's timing, but
Yeah,
I can't wait for that, because
I'm
then
just
then you kind of
working on it
already
right
have
now.
like
So
your following. You know what I mean?
yeah. Oh no, now would
Yeah.
be a great time to go back into business, since my following tripled. So
Yeah. For sure. And people, I mean, people always want coffee. So, um, but so you're in St. Louis, right? Is that where you are
generally, I
now?
I live in Peebly, Missouri, so it's like 45 minutes south of St. Louis, but it's so much easier just to talk about just say St. Louis. So, and I live
Okay.
out in the country or county, really. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, I think we were talking about like you were listening to the Alex Shea, in our
hmm.
Missouri episode. Is she near, was that storytelling kind of close to where you are, or?
So I live on the exact opposite of the state. So St. Louis is on the east side of the state, and it's right on the Mississippi, bordering Illinois. And Kansas City, the first one, like she was saying, not the Kansas City, but Kansas City, Missouri, is
So
on the.
confusing.
I know it's on the river on the west side of the state, so complete opposite ends. But I used to live in Kansas City, so I knew just about every area she was talking about. So that made that episode so much more enjoyable because I knew when she was talking about like the West Downs,
Mm-hmm.
that whole area that got flooded and everything. Like they have some awesome, like they turn all the old buildings into giant antique shops. They turn them into haunted houses during Halloween, and they do tons of cool stuff down there. So it really cool place to visit.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy episode. I haven't really had a chance to like reconnect with her, but I do know that she was water baptized and she's been connected with church, so I'm kind of
Awesome.
just praying that that's like kind of where her path has gone,
Yeah.
which is totally cool, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but it's funny because I'm so bad with geography. Like, still, I had to look at a map and be like, okay, where is this person? Where is that? And Kansas City is confusing. Like, just name something different.
Yeah, because they Kansas City borders Kansas. Well, Kansas City, Missouri borders Kansas City, Kansas, and they're right next to each other.
Yeah,
So one second you're in Kansas City, Missouri, and the next one you're in Kansas City, Kansas. So it is very confusing.
yeah, exactly. But so I guess you probably hadn't heard of any of the same stuff like that she was talking about, but you knew like where she was.
Not necessarily, but she did talk
Hmm.
about a lot of places that I knew, like
Okay.
Jesse James and his hometown was right there, and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. And there's a couple Civil War battlefields up there too, which are pretty fun to go visit. But man, I wish I listened to that episode more recently because she did mention a couple things I wanted to comment on. I cannot remember, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Um, I'm trying to think back too. Maybe it'll come to us because I know
Yeah,
she
maybe.
she covered a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Definitely. I know that it was a lot of like talking about like urban exploring and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're into that sort of whole part of, I guess, research or whatever, but
not necessarily.
yeah, I kind of shy away from it. I don't know really know why. I think sometimes I'm just like, I don't know why I should be like messing around with this stuff. Like, I kind of stay away from like, I had some really bad experiences like in Gettysburg, just
Hmm.
being stupid and being like, "Hello, spirits of the dead, come.
Yep.
I am a medium. I will help you." Like, this is before Jesus, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
I avoid that kind of stuff too. I'm not,
yeah.
you know, certain things that I definitely don't think should be messed with. And that's just an area I have no experience or knowledge in, so I don't mess with that. And
Yeah.
typically you have to trespass too, right? To do a lot
That's
of
what
that stuff.
that's the funny thing, because that's what I think I'm such a like baby about. Like, I just don't want to like, I'm like, like every time Crystal and I are like, let's go here, let's go there. I'm like, oh, but it says no trespassing and I don't want to get shot or arrested. Like,
Yeah, as being a member of law enforcement, I try to shy away from trespassing. So
yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's right. I guess probably, right? Because you were in the Air Force.
I
Are you
was,
still, are
yeah,
you like,
I was in the Air Force, security forces. I was in for about 12 years.
okay.
Um, Not in anymore, due to the COVID mandate, which is what led me to starting a coffee business because I needed a backup plan fast.
Right.
Things got so dicey. Because I also worked for the federal government, so of course they were trying to fire us too for not getting the shot. So starting the coffee business, my whole timeline for telling you about coffee is all out of whack for this, and I apologize.
No, that's
Um,
fine.
but that's why I did start the coffee business originally, was because I needed a
Mm-hmm.
backup because I was getting discharged from the Air Force, because I was in the reserves, and then my full time job, with the government, they were trying to fire all of us, and it was a huge mess. But we won, thank God. So
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to rely on the coffee business alone to survive.
Yeah. But so you're in security now?
Yeah, I'm a federal law enforcement officer. So
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Oh, then yeah. Well, I guess we probably shouldn't be trespassing.
you're like,
Yes.
oh no, next to bed, what am I doing? Having him on the show?
Oh no. Yeah. It's totally fine. I mean
I
my
promise, I'm not a plant.
no.
I'm a regular human like you.
Oh my gosh. That's a conspiracy theory in this little pod space. It's amazing. Like a lot of people like there's apparently a lot of plants, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's definitely a real thing.
Meow.
So it just, I don't know. Like, we were talking about, the Christian fringe, and I think the whole conspiracy theory, community in general, encompassing all of it. There's a lot of right, and man, there's so much wrong.
Mhm.
Like it's so hard to follow, and we don't have to go down this. You can, edit this out or tell me to shut up, but when because a lot of the people I follow and I love, man, and of course they rail against the government. And I'm super conservative. Like, I don't want to, a massive police state or anything like that. But when they talk about, you know, certain government things, I'm like, I don't know. I work in it. It's a bunch of people like me. We're just trying to get through our day. Like,
Mhm.
we're not out to get anyone. So it's hard to follow sometimes. But I digress. So
I think sometimes for me, and one thing that I often share with my audience is just, whether you're prayerful or not, like just use your good instincts. Like if something that you're listening to is super distracting and,
mhm.
really not edifying for your mind, your body, your spirit, you're finding yourself kind of becoming obsessed with things,
Yeah,
take a step back. Like,
mm,
sometimes
absolutely.
there's some content that's just not for you, I mean, there's been plenty of people that I've just been like, and especially in the Christian fringe space, like it's challenging because you want to be respectful, for everybody, but there are just some things where I'm just like, you know what, I don't really feel like this theory is something that I need to be paying attention to,
Mhm.
you know and going down like, like different rabbit holes and stuff like that. But it's like I could probably just be spending my time, either in the Bible or, you know doing something else that's a little bit more edifying than trying to figure out. And I think sometimes we just try to like shove everything into like, okay, how do I reconcile all of this stuff? Like not just having an experience, but then also, well, what about Bigfoot? Like, what about ghosts? Like, how do we jam all that into the Bible and stuff? And it's like sometimes I just want to like not ruin the mystery. Like,
Yep.
you know?
I totally get that. To what you're saying right before that though, with like, sometimes you just when you're listening to so many podcasts and so many, which ultimately comes down to the conspiracy theories and the books and who you're listening to, it's all really fun, but sometimes you just got to go outside and breathe because you can't let that consume you. Because man, it can put you in a dark place, whether you realize it or
Yeah.
not. And you don't want to be that person that only talks about it whenever you see your friends or meet new people.
Oh,
Um,
for sure. I mean, I was definitely doing that. Like, I think Crystal and I joked about it on an episode where like we were having like book club or something, and I was with a bunch of people that like, are normies and don't spend their time talking about either, Bigfoot in the Bible or just, just either way, I'm weird. And we were talking about something in this book, and I was like, "Oh yeah, just like MK Ultra," and it was like crickets. Nobody. Crystal was like, "Yeah, that you really way to way to bring the room down, Christina." Like,
No, I get it. I've definitely been there too, and it's just one of those things you kind of got to just check yourself,
yeah.
But at the same time, it's really fun, and I enjoy it. So
Oh, for sure. Like, I'm either a weirdo because of like aliens and Bigfoot, or I'm a weirdo because of Jesus. So it's whatever.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely, it's all the above.
all of the
Well,
above.
it's funny because so Chris Price from the Camp Herman podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I actually so I was the best man at his wedding, and so whenever
Oh,
I do
cool.
the best man speech, is that what you call it? I can't remember. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but whenever I introduced myself to the crowd, I was like, just so you guys know, I met Chris at a UFO conference, but don't freak out. It was a Christian UFO conference,
Right.
and everyone laughed because that's Chris. But also it sounds so goofy being not just a UFO conference, but a Christian UFO conference. And it
Right.
was the it was the Tim Alvarino and Blurred Creatures conference they had a few years back.
Oh yeah.
So and which
Blurry
it was fun.
Con. Ugh,
Yep, the first BlurryCon. Yep, well,
I want to go
unofficially.
so bad. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, something's just like not opening up for me to go to any of the stuff because I'm in Maryland, and it's like
You are pretty far away, yeah.
everything is so far away, and there's nothing like that here. So I'm just like, oh, but
Well, most of the fringe podcasters I feel like are in the Midwest.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so you're the holdout. You're shining that light up in New England area. So,
I
are
know.
you considered New England?
I don't know. I don't think
We'll
so.
give you the
I
East
think
Coast.
it's
How about that?
yeah, it's just East
You're
Coast. Yeah,
shining bright on the East Coast for us.
I'm like Chesapeake Bay. Yeah, like
Thank you for your
Maryland,
service.
Delaware, Virginia. Right, that whole area. So yeah, so how did you get connected with? Because I don't really know those guys. I don't think I've connected with them yet. But I do
This
enjoy their
was
show a lot.
we met at the conference. And
Okay,
basically, if anyone had a Blurry Creature shirt on, we just would nerd out and be like, "Hey, you like Jesus and Bigfoot?" And then we would just start talking, and that's how I met Chris. So
nice. That's
yeah.
awesome. And you were on their show, weren't you? You shared some of your stuff on their show.
Yes. I was on episode 17, terrifying trek through the Irish wilderness. Because I had a weird experience a few years ago. Do you want me to jump into this now, or?
Yeah, if you want to, sure. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. No. I'm trying to remember how we started our whole conversation, and now we're here. So no. So in 2022, I got kicked out of the Air Force, and man, that whole story too is it's wild. The whole process they put us through, like I my story is different from everybody. Um, Everyone had their own convictions. Some people had no convictions. I personally, I had a really good career in the Air Force, and I put a lot of time and dedication into it. And for any military nerds out there, I had gotten accepted to officer training school, so I was going to be a commissioned officer in security forces. So I was waiting for school dates to go, um, but I refused the vaccine. Um, and you know what? At first, I was going to get it, but something seemed off. As a lot of us thought that something's weird. So I prayed about it, and I decided I'll just get the vaccine. I don't want to ruin my career. Everything's great, but
Mm-hmm.
man, I got convicted so hard by the Holy Spirit. Like I was in line to get the shot on at the whatever what's it called, hospital on base.
Okay, yeah, at the
And
base.
I got out of line because I got so convicted. I couldn't do it, And
Wow.
oh my gosh, I went to everybody I knew, any spiritual mentor. I went to my pastor. I went to everyone I could think of, and was trying to get an excuse to get the shot. And everybody ultimately came back to me and said, like, hey, you don't pray about it. If you're convicted not to do it, don't do it. So I didn't get the answer I wanted. So I I didn't do it, and I told all my leadership I wasn't going to do it, and I was against it. I felt convicted by the Holy Spirit, and they thought that was a really bad excuse that I was being convicted by the Holy Spirit to not do it, but I don't have any
Mm-hmm.
other answer, And of course,
Right.
you go down those. There's so many other reasons why, whether it's First Amendment, religious freedom, aborted babies being used to create these vaccines. We don't know what mRNA technology really does. It's gene therapy. It's not really a vaccine. How dangerous is that for you? There's a billion other things, but for me personally, like my main drive at that point was just how convicted I was over the whole, from the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, man, the
So then
military. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna try to see like get the timeline. So after you left the Air Force, you said that you had where did that experience kind of come and lead into?
Yeah, sorry. One thing after another. Basically, it was a really traumatizing time period because I was threatened
Mm-hmm.
with jail. I was threatened with getting fired from my civilian job. It was a huge mess. One of the last phone calls I ever got from anybody in the Air Force was like, "Hey, you need to probably get a lawyer. Your commander once is coming after you." Basically, he got
Wow.
really offended that I was going to get the vaccine, so he wanted to ruin my life. Apparently, which I do believe it was the Navy was the only branch that actively was jailing people. The Air Force, the reason why I was apparently not pursued was because my boss's next level boss said no, just kick him out. So I
Mm.
was very fortunate. But anyways, so a couple months after that, I just I don't know what the deal was, but I wanted to basically is just get alone and just think about all of it and kind of just have some me time. So
Mm-hmm.
on Father's Day, in 2022, I think it was, I decided that I would just go on like a 20-mile hike or do something, something big like that. So my wife had blessed the decision, and so I thought about some cool areas I'd never been to, and there's a place in southern Missouri called the Irish Wilderness. And I knew of it. It sounded really cool. I knew it was kind of near a place that had uh, been rumored to be called Marley Woods, which
Mm-hmm.
is Missouri's version of Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh wow.
And in case you guys don't know, but Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie is broadcasted out of St. Louis. And so apparently George Norrie gets to go down to Marley Woods, which that's the code name for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to stay on track, I promise.
No, no, you're
Um,
good.
and so I would hear him talk about it, and he would have these guests on, and if you, he would talk about like places near it, and the biggest town near it was like West Plains, Missouri, and Donovan, Missouri. And so I was looking at the map, and I think the Irish Wilderness is like somewhere in the middle by like I think the nearest town technically is Pilot, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got on like a bunch of Reddit pages, and I think I had tracked it down. But that's another story. So I was like, oh, that might be a cool area to go hike in. So the story behind the Irish Wilderness is there was an Irish settlement down there. The Irish settlers, immigrants had built a town, and during the Civil War, basically control of the town went back and forth between the Union and the Confederacy because Missouri was a constantly ebbing and flowing between Union and Confederacy. And so after the war, there's an Irish Catholic priest in Chicago, and it was his job. He looked over that area as his jurisdiction, I guess you would say. So
Mm-hmm.
he went down to the wilderness to visit, and the town was just gone. No remains, apparently, for the most part.
Really?
Someone was in there a few years back, and they found it like an old rock chimney, and they posted pictures on Reddit. And so that's all that's left of the town. And there's a suspected place where they believe that the Irish, where the Catholic Church was, um, but it was gone. And so spooky,
What
right?
happened?
And there were the Osage Indians did live there
Okay.
in the caves on the I think it was called White's Creek, which goes right through the wilderness, and connects to the 11 Point River, which cuts through the wilderness as well. And so basically, I thought, oh, there's a lot of weird stuff down there, so that's kind of cool, and I like weird stuff, especially
Mm-hmm.
in the woods. But when I went down there, I kind of just wanted to go out there, just kind of have some alone time and think. And I think there's a part of me that really just kind of wanted to prove to myself that I don't know, it sounds dumb or silly, but like still worthy of like crazy adventures because I got kicked out of the Air Force and it meant so much to me. And So I was like, I'll go do a 20-mile hike. I don't know. I'm a silly guy, I guess. So anyways, I didn't do any research really besides just knowing that story and that gnarly
Mm-hmm.
woods might be in the area. So I thought it'd be kind of cool if I could see some UFOs that night or something. Um, because Tim Alberino, before I go into anything else, do you ever follow Tim Alberino?
Yeah.
So when I was at his
Yeah.
conference, he said the reason why people never see UFOs is because we never take time to just look up. And if you
Hmm.
just look up, you will see UFOs or strange things in the sky. So I kept thinking, oh, I'll just look up when I'm out there. So and I do apologize. I talk a lot. I should have warned you ahead of time. I
No,
will
that's fine.
I will do so much talking. So
No.
just interrupt at any point. Um, so I went down there. It's in the middle of nowhere. No cell service once you get to the trailhead.
Mm.
So I park, I get out, and I was winging this thing. I didn't really pack for overnight. My wife gave me the blessing to camp overnight on the trail if I wanted to, which I did not prepare for that. I wasn't going to. So I brought like a camelback with me and my hiking bag just for fun, just in case. And basically, as soon as I started on the trail, I tried to go south. It's a 20-mile trail, 18 to 20 miles or something like that. I tried going south on the
Mm-hmm.
loop, it's a big circle, and something in my gut was like, turn around, go the other way. And I tried to always listen to my gut, it's Holy Spirit. And so I turned around, I was like, all right, I'll go north. And long story short, if I had gone south, I would have never made it out because my second trip out there, I tried going south, and it was a nightmare. But anyways, so I started going north on the loop. And man, I should have listened to uh, the Camp Herman podcast because I can't remember how I worded it originally. But basically, I saw a pile of like trees that were leaned up against each other. And so
Mm.
I did not go out here looking for Sasquatch or looking for anything weird. I just thought it was a cool area. And I was going to hike it, and it was going to be an awesome trip, and I was going to be exhausted afterwards. And so I saw like a pile of trees piled up against each other, and it looked like a tree structure, like a teepee. And I thought, oh, that's weird. And I got up closer, and after kind of dismissing it, I wanted to look at it. And as I got closer, I realized that all of these logs had been drug up to the spot, and it was like a teepee, like a tree structure. And I looked around, and there's no big trees above it or anything that these logs or these giant limbs could have fallen to, um, just perfectly in place. It was like 5 or so logs. And if I have the pictures, I'll send them to you.
Oh, that would be great.
I know
Yeah.
I had sent them to Chris a while ago, but I'll see if I can find them. And I thought that's weird. What a coincidence. So I kept hiking, and maybe like 30 seconds later, I saw another thing, which I thought it looked just like a tree structure, and I was like, there's no chance. So I walked up close, and I was like, these are just 3 or 4 trees that just grew into each other. And then as I got close, like it looked like it had been sawn at the bottom of it. There's tons of um, it looked like it had just been ground up at the bottom of it, and this big limb had been drug over, and so had another one. And I was like, that's really really
Hmm.
weird. If I in my mind I was like, these are like tree structures, but I'm not here for that. And I'm just thinking that because I'm a Bigfoot guy, so I'm like, I'm just you know just being paranoid because I love that stuff. So I thought, whatever, I'm going to keep going. And so I don't know how big of a Bigfoot nerd you are. I'm assuming somewhat because your podcast is called Sasquatch and Sourdough.
Mm-hmm.
But I found a tree like almost immediately after that. I found a tree bend, and that's when like a tree is bent right over the trail. I thought
Yeah.
this is really odd, and so I just kind of ducked under it and I kept going. And I was like, huh, these weird stuff that these are all symptoms of like Bigfoot.
Yeah. Can I ask you? So
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
when you say it looked like it was kind of like like cut up at the bottom. Like, could it? Did it look like something kind of like when you see things that like beavers are like chewing and things? Was it like chewed or
No, it wasn't
sawed?
chewed. It wasn't sawed or chewed. It just looked like it had been mangled real bad.
Hmm.
But there was no root around it.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like like maybe like a foot. It looked like it had been drug at one point. Like just the bottom kind of scraped against the ground. but it wasn't. It was there was no. It didn't look like a beaver. It didn't look like someone had cut it with like a saw. It just looked like it had been mangled real bad. I
And
wish I
how
could describe
tall
it.
was it, do you think? The
Oh gosh,
structure itself.
like gosh, what a regular tree. Like a story and a half maybe.
Wow.
So it's just like big tree limbs. So
Right.
um,
It's not like homeschool moms making crafts out there in the woodlands.
absolutely not. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. I wish I could reiterate like this is a wilderness. It's a national wilderness. So there and it's in the middle of the Mark Twain National Forest. So
Okay.
what makes like a national forest different from like a national wilderness is that you're not allowed to make fires. You're not allowed to bring animals in. Um, it's completely barren. Like the fact that they maintain a trail um, is really unique compared to like all the regulations, but they barely keep the trail.
Okay.
Um, it's not very well kept, and so many times during this trail, well, on this hike, I would lose the trail, and so I would have to start like moving out in like concentric circles to try and to basically find where the trail goes because you just lose it. Like it's not kept up well at all. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to use like a lot of like that sound lame, but like pathfinding skills. Um, and so basically, I had to do that several times. And so probably I want to say it was like 10 to 12 miles later. Basically, I'm just huffing it through the forest, just just enjoying a brutal hike because I really enjoy. I'm a glutton for punishment, and I just really love really intense things like hikes, really intense hikes like that. So I'm sweating, and apparently, right before I got there, I found out it was like the second hottest day of the summer or something like that. So I was sweating, and I was really glad I brought my Camelback. And I hadn't really eaten. I didn't like prepare on my way there for anything. So I
Yeah.
like stopped at a gas station. I was like downing like gas station pizza. That was disgusting. But anyways,
Oh, jeez.
um, so at one point though, so basically I pass. I'm halfway through. I'm now so like you started at one end of the wilderness, and on the opposite side is the 11 Point River. And so at one point the trail starts going down the other river on the opposite side, which I think I said earlier it cuts through the middle, but it's just on one side of it. I apologize. Um, but there was a basically at some point I lose the trail. Essentially, this is where it gets interesting. Sorry. So like 4 hours later, um, I'm trying to beat the sun going down, so I have to rely on flashlights because I've done that before and it's really scary out in the wilderness. um,
Yeah.
so I get to a point where I can't find where the trail is, and I spend like 40 minutes just searching over and over again, retracing my footsteps, trying to see where the trail goes, and I just lost the connector. I couldn't figure out where it was. So the sun's going down. It's like 8 o'clock or 8:30 or something. I really don't remember. But the sun's going down. I know I'm in trouble because I'm on the opposite end of the wilderness from where any road is,
Mm.
or where my car was at least. So I just got out my compass and I was like, well, I'll just hike east until I get to a road. I've been in similar situations, getting lost at night in the woods. So I was like, well, I'll just follow compass and I'll get out eventually. And so I tried doing that. Um, and so basically, I go for what feels like forever, and I just find myself at the bottom of this creek. And I was like, okay, cool. So I had saved a picture of like the wilderness on my GPS beforehand. So I pull out my phone and I'm just kind of like zooming in, looking at all the creeks and stuff like that, trying to figure out where I am. And I'm pretty sure I know where I'm at. I'm at White's Creek. And across the creek, there it says that there was like a float camp or something like that. So I have that in the
Hmm.
back of my mind. So there might be people nearby. And basically, I crossed the creek at some point, and I just kept trying to go east. And I don't know what happened. It was very Lovecraftian, but like I passed a couple big caves, and they're like I got the heebie-jeebies so bad from them. And then it kind of clicked with me, like, oh yeah, the Osage Indians lived on the creek that was at the mouth of the river, so they probably lived in the caves. That makes sense. But somehow, as I keep going up these hills, I keep coming back to the same caves and on the same creek over and over again. I was like, okay, this isn't good. It's getting dark, so something's wrong. So I figured after a while, I'm just gonna follow the creek out to the river, and maybe if there's a float camp on the other side, I can like scream for help or something. So I basically I followed the creek back to the river, and
Mm-hmm.
cool enough as it is, I found like an old dilapidated campsite. where like there were signs at one point, but like the signs are kind of like they've withered away and I can't tell what they say. And there's like an old dock where there used to be like part of a dock, but now it's just like steps up in that kind of go out of the creek into
Oh,
somewhat of a campsite. And
it's
there's
like
some old
Camp
benches
Crystal
out there.
Lake.
You what?
I said it feels like Camp Crystal Lake, like
It
something
does,
from
doesn't it?
ew, so creepy.
Well,
Oh
and up
man.
the creek, there's a bunch of like old wooden boards where I'm guessing that like this used to be like a campsite, but
Okay.
it's the wilderness, so they don't keep up with it. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it took me like 5 hours to hike to this, and there's no way rangers are gonna do that unless they came through the river. So, anyways, which when I did go back, I actually rafted down the river because I was like, I'm never hiking that again. Um, I bought a raft off Amazon.
Yeah.
I keep going back. Anyways, so I find this dilapidated campsite, and I'm looking at my map, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll cross over the creek, and I'll hike to the edge, and I'll call for help, and see if there's anyone on the other side. So man, just to reiterate, like this wilderness is in the middle of nowhere, and I
Mm-hmm.
just hiked like 10 miles into the middle of nowhere. There's nothing in sight. There's no one in sight. I have no service. I tried at this point. I don't remember if I've tried calling 911, but I tried several times because I was like, I need help. Like this is going to be bad.
I had a question. So I guess I'm a little this is why if I'm not going on like a straight trail, like I love hiking too, but like I will get lost in the woods for sure. So when you were describing it, when you kind of were going past like the rocks and stuff, were you feeling like you were going in circles? Like is that what had happened, or you just said you kept going east
Yeah,
and but you
so
were
I had the
passing the
compass
same
out,
thing?
and I was trying just to go east, and I just felt like if for some reason I kept stumbling back into the same creek over and over again with the same caves.
Okay.
And I was doing something wrong. I couldn't just go east apparently, so that's why I got nervous. Was like I can't keep doing this. And that's why I felt very good with crafting because I kept finding myself in the same place over and over again.
Right.
And that's why I went back. I started heading out to the river, hoping I could maybe get a hold of that. Try and find somebody like in a float camp somewhere or something. Um,
That's crazy.
but yeah, so
Mm.
I crossed this like I was saying earlier, this place is in the middle of nowhere, and so I crossed over the creek, um, and there's barely any light, and so I'm following the opposite side of the creek to like the most western edge of like this little plateau area to maybe try and see if anyone's at the float camp on the other side of the river. And so I'm crawling through like brush. It's like Vietnam, um, like the bush. That's the best way to describe it.
Right.
And okay, this is the craziest part. It's actually not the craziest part, but I find a bed made out of limbs, 550 cord, a trash bag, and leaves underneath the trash bag. And the first thing that comes to my mind is there's wild people out here or there's a
Mm.
fugitive. So at that point, I get my gun out and I chamber around. And I have, which, gun nuts are going to listen to this and be like, why wasn't a round already chambered? And I don't know. I'm sorry. It's way cooler this way. So then I'm like really paranoid. I'm like, oh, is somebody out here watching me?
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Like
so then
Rambo.
I crawl out to the edge of the river and I'm on the kind of this little plateau point. And I'm like, I'm looking at my map and it should be directly across the river. So I'm yelling like, help, anyone over there? Which later I found out that the GPS had just marked the wrong spot. And it was like up the river was the float camp. So there was nothing there. So I didn't want to be there anymore. So I got back into the creek and I crossed it again. But this time I didn't want to go all the way because there's so many cat claws. Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
It's really, really, really thorny vines
Oh,
that just
okay.
mangle everything. There's tons of cat claws in there, and I was so cut up. So I just crossed over the creek, but like I had my backpack over my head, so that the water's like up to here, and I was trying to get across because like I didn't want to go back through the cat claws, and it was disgusting, and I think I saw a snake, and I was like, I'm gonna die out here. This is how
Oh my
people die.
gosh. Yeah,
Um,
right.
so I find there's that old wooden staircase type or whatever I was telling you about earlier. So I climbed up that and I
Mm-hmm.
went back to the dilapidated campsite and I sit on a bench and I'm just trying to game plan. Like I don't know what to do. It's dark now. I have my flashlight out and oh man. So I think it's 9 o'clock at this point and I'm so exhausted. I think I found like a protein bar in my bag and I ate it, and that's all I had. And so at this point, and I'm trying to give you the short version of all this because I could go on, but basically at some point like I accidentally like found like a family of like armadillos, and it was
What?
strangely comforting because I was like, oh, friendly armadillos here, like I don't know what it was weird because I was just being out there for hours. It was just a really weird experience.
You're
So,
probably like feeling a little delirious, I would imagine. Like
um,
at least turned around or, you know.
so that's one thing you know, it I tr- I wouldn't say I was delirious,
Mhm.
at all. I think I I've done a lot of physically exerting things that are exerting myself physically a lot, and this kind of stuff I like to do, like pathfinding and doing stuff in the wilderness. This is just a really weird situation where like I wasn't able to find my way out the way I should have. So I maintained composure as much as I could,
Mhm.
not getting too stressed out. Because at the end of the day, I know I've been lost before, and I've been in some sticky situations where like I just have to push through until I get out. Um, so I kind of explored the campsite a little bit, and eventually I found a trail that went back up the creek, and I thought, okay, cool, awesome, I found my way out. This is great. So I've got my flashlight, and I keep thinking to myself, like, part of me, and I can't remember if I tried. I don't think I tried crossing the river yet, but at this point, I remember thinking like, this is gonna suck. I'm at least 10 miles in, and if I'm going to follow this trail, but that means I have 10 miles out, and that took me 4 or 5 hours to get here, but I have to get out. Like, I don't really have an option. I guess I could die if I don't get out of here. So I follow the trail. The trail starts going up a hill, and I'm walking up the trail, and not once have I been thinking about anything about Bigfoot or anything scary the whole time. Like, it's just me and nature in a family of armadillos. And as I'm going up this hill, I don't realize how quiet the forest is, but there's a creek to my left that's like below the trail a little bit, and out of nowhere, just an an ear-shattering boom from something huge smashing into the creek, like just hitting the water, completely shatters all silence in the forest. I'm just walking up this trail, and I'm just frozen for a moment. Uh, and I turn and look, goosebumps, hair on the back of my neck, everything's up. I'm looking. I turn over with my flashlight and I look at the creek, and all I see are ripples coming out. And so the first thing that comes to my mind is, and I have not thought about Bigfoot since I saw the tree structure and the tree bend, not once, because I put that out of my mind. But the first thing that comes to my mind is something big, probably Bigfoot, just threw a giant rock in the creek to tell me to go away.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and so I stop and I look. I stop and I look at the water. I see the ripples, and then um, sorry, and I wait to see if an animal jumped in the water, they'll float back up to the surface. Nothing came up. If it was a limb from a tree, it would have floated back up. Nothing floated up from the water. I looked back and forth. It was just ripples. So something that loud, that heavy, it had to have been a rock, something super heavy that would not float as it fell into whatever it was that hit the creek. And honestly, if it was, and I try to be as skeptical, before I start, saying things like Bigfoot, but um, if a rock or a deer or a limb had like fallen, you would have heard it rolling down the hill, thudding. But
Mm.
out of nowhere, it was pure silence, and then something massive hit the water. So the first thing that came to my mind was, after I looked around, was Bigfoot. It
Wow.
just threw a rock into the water to tell me to go away. Which, if you know anything about, if you're a Bigfoot nerd, typically rock throwing is a big indicator
Mhm.
of for like if a Sasquatch would be warning someone to stay away from them, or you're in my territory now, they often tend to throw big rocks just as warnings. And so that kind of entered my mind, um, and I thought, that's crazy. There's no way. I've been looking for a Bigfoot experience my entire life, and it would be happening now while I'm lost in the woods in the middle of the night. I can't afford this right now. Um, So I think to myself, I'm kind of still sitting there, you think so quickly. And I'm thinking like, I don't have the opportunity to turn around. I have to follow this trail because I have to get home.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, I think I just had 3 kids. Um, yeah, 3 kids. And I was like, I have to get home to my kids and wife. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to follow this up this trail. Whatever that giant rock was that landed in the water that had to have been thrown because I would have heard it rolling down a hill. I'm just going to ignore it and keep going.
Mm.
So I'm hiking up this hill, and I thought, okay, maybe if there's another indicator, maybe I am walking into something I shouldn't be. And so I'm going up this hill, and there's a canopy of trees over me, and I see a tree break, and there's a branch twisted off this limb pointed down towards the trail. And so, and also, if you're a nerd and you're into Bigfoot like I am, typically that's like an indicator of sometimes Sasquatch will break limbs and they twist them in certain directions to say, hey, don't come this way because this is my territory. And I'm like, wow, that's a crazy coincidence. And I keep hiking up this trail up this hill, and then I see another one on the left. And at that point, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I start apologizing. I start repenting to God. And I was just like, God, I'm so sorry. I needed an adventure. I should have been home with my family where I'm safe.
Mm.
I genuinely was repenting. And I was like, I never need an adventure again. So I keep going up this hill, and then I see another tree break, and then another one. So I saw 4 altogether. And at this point, I'm crapping my pants. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't have a choice. So I have to keep going up this hill because I'm following the trail. And man, I wish I could remember what it was first. But far on my right, um, I heard what was a loud howl. Um, but then it slowly turned into like a deep growl, like a deep guttural growl.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and I remember thinking, oh, cool, that's not how Bigfoot sounds. So there's no Bigfoot out here. But the other thought in my mind was, could that have been a boar? No, that's not a boar because we have a lot of wild boar out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember thinking like, those weren't coyotes. I don't know what that sound was, but I have to keep going up this hill. But it was probably like 100, 150 feet off. Now, man, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, but I was listening to another podcast. Sorry, I'm going to stay focused. So I'm going up this hill, and then come crashing down the hill on my right is a big rock. Something. There was a. This is the part where I get uncomfortable about how I word things, but I'm just going to say something through a rock because a big rock was tumbling down the hill on my right, thud, 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 rolling. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm genuinely being told to not be here, and it's
Mm.
super cool, but also terrifying, and I don't know what to do. So I keep going up the hill because I can't at this point it's survival because at this point I'm dehydrated. I don't have any water left. I'm in the middle of the forest. It's like in my mind it's do or die. It's survival. So I have to keep following the
Mm.
only trail I know to try and get out of the wilderness. So I'm going up this hill, and I'm following this trail, and the forest is dead silent. Which is another thing that at some point I realized that it's quiet. There's nothing. There's no noises. But I keep hearing this really weird like cuckoo bird noise. Um,
Hmm.
which in my mind I'm also thinking is kind of weird, but also I think to myself, okay, there's a bird, which that means the whole forest isn't completely quiet because something's making noise, so there's no predators around. That's what I'm telling myself. But the other part of me is thinking, oh, Bigfoot's been known to imitate bird calls when they communicate with
Mm-hmm.
each other. So I don't know. So I just continue going up this path, and I keep focusing on this weird cuckoo bird noise up in a tree, and I get closer and closer, and then as soon as I'm at the base of what I think is the tree, or that area, it stops making the noises, and then I keep going, and then it goes for a little bit. It starts making this weird cuckoo noise, and then stops, and the forest is still silent, and everything that's weird. So that's just a weird thing that happened with the cuckoo bird noise. Anyways, so I go back up that hill, and then I hear on the left side of me now, something big is crashing down the hill. So I'm assuming it's a rock, and I just heard it crash, crash, crash down the hill.
Oh wow.
Um, and so I just remember, so I keep going up the hill after that, and at some point, and I at some point, something starts walking parallel to me off the trail on my right side. Whatever it is, it's a two-legged gait, bipedal. There are bears. Sweetie, shh, sorry. There are bears in the area, but bears don't walk like this. It sounded like someone walking, like a human would walk, very purposeful. And so it's walking next to me, but on the other side of the trees, because the trees are thick. It's dark, I can't see, but at this point, like it's I don't know how else to describe it, but it's walking next to me. And at this point in my mind, I'm constantly thinking, okay, so for all Bigfoot stories, because at this point I'm genuinely convinced that I am in Bigfoot territory and I'm not supposed to be there. And so I'm getting goosebumps talking about it again. And at this point, I'm constantly looking left and right and behind me with my flashlight. Like any second, I'm going to see it. Like it's there. Something's there. And so I know in typical Bigfoot stories, at some point when people know they're being stalked, like Bigfoot just walks out and like screams at them with that blood curdling scream. And I'm just waiting, like my time's coming. I'm in the middle of the wilderness. Does this mean I'm going to die? What is the intent? Oh my gosh. I haven't told the story in a while. But I'm just waiting. So then I also think, well, one thing I've kind of come to acceptance in Bigfoot lore is that they're much more intelligent than most people let on. So I tend to think that Sasquatch is far more sentient than we realize, whatever it is. Because I've had so many ideas what I think Sasquatch is. I don't know, but I know they're intelligent. So this is really embarrassing and silly sounding, but at this point I just say out loud, I say, I'm really sorry. I'm in your home right now, but I just want to go home. I don't want to be here. And I just say that out loud. And I keep walking, and it keeps walking whatever to my right. And I know this is also kind of weird, but in my mind, you know how like if you smell like a fancy perfume in a room, you're like, oh, a girl was here. Or if you smell a cologne, like a guy was here. Or if you're outside, you see light, like you're like, oh, it's daytime. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But in the back of my mind, the word female kept coming to mind. It really weird. I don't know. Just really weird, but that's something that would come to mind. I remember thinking about that for a while. Like, I don't know if that's a pheromone thing. I don't know. But anyways, so I did not draw my gun at all at this point. I had it in my holster because I kept thinking, like, I know at this point, like, a gun's not going to do anything. No one ever has a story about taking on a Sasquatch with a gun. Anyone who's credible.
Right.
And so I'm like, that's all. That I'm not going to show any aggression because clearly I'm being escorted or stalked or something. And I just keep walking. And at some point, I'm down the trail, and I just noticed that the trail has disappeared again. And I'm trying to find the trail again, and I realize that I'm lost. I can't find the trail. And I realize at this point, the hair on the back of my neck isn't standing anymore, and I realize I'm alone. And it's super relieving, but at the same point, I'm lost. And I keep thinking, I'm not going to turn around and go back that trail because there's no way I'm going back down that road or that trail. Yeah. I'm not supposed to be, clearly. And so I just decide, like, I get out my compass and I'm like, well, if I go, I don't know, I don't remember at this point, but I'm like, if I just go down this hill, I'll get back to the creek and I'll be fine. And so I tried crawling down the side of this hill, and it was steep. Holy cow! Like at that point, like I had all these like my obliques were cramping.
Oh my gosh!
Thinking,
yeah.
This is also how people die. I am severely dehydrated. And so I just kind of like shimmy down this hill, like limping basically, and I get back to this creepy river or this creepy creek. And I walked by these caves, and it was the creepiest thing ever following these caves or walking by these caves. And I just went back to that old dilapidated campsite, and I just sat there for a bit. And there's another area where I thought there might have been a trail, and I started to walk up it that would parallel going north to the river. And I just got the weirdest heebie-jeebies, like don't go that way. So I just turned around and went back. But part of me is super excited, and absolutely mortified that I just had the weirdest, what I believe is a Sasquatch encounter ever.
Yeah.
Um, but you know what? So far, thank God, I have not come across any wild animals besides the armadillos. Um, and at some point, and I know we've been on here for a while. We're on like an hour, so I'll try to hurry this up.
No, you're fine.
But basically, at some point, um, I go out to the river and I tried crossing it because I know on the other side of the river there is a landing somewhere, like a rafting, what it's called, like a boating ramp and stuff, somewhere up the
Mm-hmm.
river. But man, it is so dark out there. You can see like the spiral arm of the Milky Way. It's beautiful. But I tried crossing the river and I lost my footing and like went under and then got back up because I was kind of like tiptoeing my way through and I was like, oh, this is also how people die trying to cross rivers.
Right.
Um,
Oh my gosh.
and mad props because I have like a old military bag that I took from the Air Force. I kept a lot of my gear. That's another story. But like my cell phone somehow survived getting under the water. Thank God. And so as I stumbled back on the shore, I realized that like I can kind of follow the river, or the shoreline north of the river. And so basically at that point, I just started hiking up the river. But it was so nice because the river was ice cold at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went from like the hottest day of the year to like shivering, like my teeth started chattering because I was in the water for so long. I go up the river. I'm trying to speed this up. And I tried crossing the river again, and I got knocked off my feet, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll keep going up the river. But at this point, like I swear, and I don't know if it's me just hearing forest noises, but I kept hearing something in the trees up on the shoreline, like
Mm-hmm.
off the shoreline, and I kept thinking like, am I being followed? And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't go back there. So I keep going up the river, and at one point, like the shoreline turns into like deep water and like a cliff, kind of. And I think if I keep going north, which there's another campsite supposedly north, if I kept going like miles, I'd have to kind of get off the river and like go up into the wood line on this kind of like this cliff thing. And I was mortified. I did not want to go in there. I didn't want to go in the woods. I was so scared of going back into the woods.
Mm.
Um, so at this point, I just sat and I kind of like stared at the stars for a while, and I was like, "Well, I'm screwed." And so I thought, you know what? I'm dehydrated. So I just I come up with a plan. I'm like, well, I could start drinking river water, and that'll give me
Mm.
45 minutes, maybe an hour before I start crapping my brains out and vomiting. But I started doing that, and it tasted really good and it was super refreshing. And and then at one point, I'm like sucking in this river water, and I look up, and like goose crap like floats right next to me,
Oh.
and
Oh
I was like,
man.
I'm done. Um,
No. No more.
but then so then I'm sitting there, and I noticed that there's kind of like the little white rapids or whatever, like from hitting some kind of object in the middle of the river. And so I tried to kind of like wade a little closer, and I realized that a tree at some point like floated down the river and got lodged. And I thought, well, if I'm ever going to cross this river, I'm going to get as close as I can to that tree, hold on to it for dear life because it's halfway. So if I get to
Mm-hmm.
that tree and I just go as, you know, ham on the other side, I'll at least float eventually down the river and get onto the other shoreline. And I know that if I can hike up the river from there on the other shoreline, I'll get to that boat ramp and I can follow that to a county road and I'll get somewhere with service. Um, and so basically that's what happened. I get out to that tree and I just fight for dear life. And it wasn't really that bad at that point, getting to the other side of the river. And I remember for the first point all night, I just felt so much hope surge in me because I was finally on the other side of the river. And basically after like an hour or two, I hike up that river and eventually I find that boat ramp. Someone has a lantern up and I'm yelling like, hello, I'm lost.
Oh
Don't
my
shoot me.
gosh.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I climb up the river, or I climb up the riverside, and I see like this old school bus, and it looks like hippies live there, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm on some creep's property, I'm gonna get murdered. But apparently, it was just like I guess like a float trip something,
Mm-hmm.
and like the bus took people there because there's no one there. There was like a big tent set up, and they had like a bunch of crock pots out, and they had just washed them. Like they
Oh
still
my
got soap suds
gosh.
on them. So I knock on the bus because there's bunks in it, and I'm like, hello, and I guess they're floating or something. I don't. Nobody was there. So naturally, I
What
prayed for
time was this? What time
I don't
of night?
I really don't remember. It's probably around like 11 o'clock or midnight or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But there is an SUV there. with the bus, and they're Missouri plates. Um, First thing I look for is a cop. I'm like looking at the plates.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's around. So naturally, I go over to their big cases of water and I just raid them and I start drinking all their water. But like in my mind, I'm like, I should let them know that I was here. So I stacked all their water bottles in the middle of their tent. So kind of like I guess like a thank you, like
Yeah.
somebody was here. Anyways, so then I start hiking down the road and eventually, oh man, I don't know how long, but I hiked for a while until I got service. I called the local PD and I talked to some old guy named like Dave. And he wouldn't believe me. I was like, I got lost in the wilderness, but now I'm on like Highway CC and A. And he's like, well, you can't be in the wilderness because there's a river. And I was like, I crossed the river. And
Oh
he's
my
like, no, you
gosh.
didn't. And I was like, no, I'm on Highway A, and C. So, anyways, eventually he sends a deputy out. The guy picks me up, um, and he drives me back to my car. And it took so to explain the geography, basically, it was a 45-minute drive back to my car because he had to go all the way around the wilderness, all the way back to my car.
Okay.
Um, so then I make like the 3.5 hour drive home or something like that. I get home at like 5:30 in the morning, and and so I pull up to the house, and I'm limping to the door.
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
I get out my keys and I realize I have the car keys. I don't have a house key on it. And my wife has a baby, so I'm like, I'll just sleep on the bench outside the house. It was a long day, but I survived.
That's
Um,
crazy.
it was a crazy night. So so I don't know. I mean, there's so many more things I could talk about, like that. So there's so many. If you want to, do you have any questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I do. I have a couple. So, do you think that do you think that you just like kind of were going around? It just seems like you were going around in a circle. Did you feel that way, or maybe I'm not like
You mean like when I was by like the
cuz
creek?
you cuz yeah, cuz you kept coming back to it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I just was going in a circle,
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form because I kept coming back to the same creek over and over again by the
Yeah.
caves. And at that point, just constantly doing that over and over again, I feel like there's no point in me trying to go through the wilderness.
I
Um,
don't know how you didn't just get like so frustrated and like obviously like your adrenaline's going, but like just getting frustrated with not being able to like get past that like coming back to the same place over and over again. It just
um,
it reminds me of Blair Witch when they like he throws the map in the water because they're frustrated because they just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
so at that point, like, I try not to always be like, oh well, OODA loop. So you hear that in the military a lot. It's and I'm gonna mess it up. It's like observe, orient, decide,
Hmm.
act. So basically, just I know I'm in survival mode. So basically, when I come to a fork in the road, or if I come to any kind of obstacle, I have to figure out a plan.
Yeah.
So at that point, like my best plan is trying to just go up the river, cross it, because I know there's going to be a road somewhere over there, and that beats trying to hike 10 miles through the wilderness. And I know at this point, like I can't get irrational. I can't do anything stupid. I can't do anything dumb because I have to get home to my family.
Right.
And at that point, I was in literal survival mode. Um, and I can't think of too many other times I'd been in that dire of a situation where, um, I have to expect a self rescue and there's no one coming. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was a long night. um,
It's unbelievable.
yeah, it's a wild story. Which
Yeah.
the second time I went back, me and my buddies, we tried doing the South Loop, which my buddy who I went with was actually a guest on the Confessionals with Tony Merkel.
Oh wow.
So it's like, hey, we're both into this stuff. So we went back and we crossed bear tracks, bear scat, and we came across rattlesnakes. Well, one
That's
rattlesnake.
crazy.
And it was by the grace of God I made it home because the amount of snakes that we saw, one of which was a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Um, we found bear scat, bear footprints. How did I, crawling through the bush all night, not run into any of these deadly creatures? Holy cow, you know? Um,
It really sounds, I don't know, to me like it feels like something definitely was protecting you for sure.
mhm.
Because yeah, like And to not, I know they always say like if you don't hear like this, like when the forest gets like really
Silent.
silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you were explaining that kind of like that bird call,
Yeah.
that just reminded me of like the Sierra sounds, or like I
Oh.
think that's what Wes Germer uses in Sasquatch Chronicles. Like if you listen to his intro, it's like
Mhm.
that whooping sort
Yeah.
of call.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it was like a whooping call, but I
Mhm.
since then I've done. I've looked up some specific things, and I did see that. Oftentimes when Sasquatch is trying to communicate low key, they use
Mhm.
like fake bird noises. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. So maybe it was that. That was the only animal I heard at that time. I don't know. Maybe it was just a bird hanging out
Right.
really late at night. I don't know. But it wasn't an owl. I'm a pretty outdoorsy person, so I can tell the difference between any kind of night bird and whatever this
Sure.
thing was in the forest. One thing I will say, I've been out there a couple times. Uh, I went the last time I went out was I think I went out there in August. Um, and I went with Chris Price, good friend of mine, host of Camp Herman, which that they're not a podcast anymore. They've actually
Oh,
they're taking
really?
hiatus as well, so I don't think they'll be coming back.
Hmm.
But me and Chris, as we're hiking down the towards the area where we think back down the trail towards our campsite is, which is the dilapidated campsite, because that's where we pulled our boat or my raft up to, and then ahead of us in the opposite direction of where we first heard the wood knocks, we hear a higher pitched wood knocking, almost like a chopping sound. It's
Hmm.
faster knocks, it's a higher pitch, but it's more erratic sounding, and it stops, and then we hear the original thud, the deep thud, the same tempo behind us, and they go back and forth for like 10 minutes. And me and
Oh,
Chris are just
wow.
sitting there, mind blown, because I believe with all of my being that those were genuine wood knocks, and they were
Yeah.
communicating, I guess, like, hey, here's those troublemakers. But that was real. And you can't, no one can, oh my gosh, convince me otherwise. Those are genuine wood knocks. And it was the same mountain, the same hill where I had the weird experience with the rocks and the howl and something paralleling me, which later I found out that paralleling is a really big thing with Bigfoot. So that was interesting.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it is. It's almost like, just like I said, from your account, it sounds like it was more of like an escorting, like even though you were scared, it didn't seem like it was just trying to get you out of that area, you know?
So I believe that it's taken me some time to really ruminate on that. So because some of the experiences I had following that, I don't believe in curses, necessarily on Christians or anything like that. Like I'm very skeptical of that. But I mean, it's the wrong way to word that. But basically, when I came home, we had the worst luck of our lives for like the following week. Um, I can't remember everything that happened, but we had two cars break down. My son got COVID. No, my wife got COVID. My son had seizures. And then while we were at the hospital with our first son having seizures, my sister's, sorry, my wife, that's weird. My wife's brother, had a seizure and passed out. Now he has cerebral palsy, but he ended up passing out and having to be hospitalized, right in front of our children,
Mm.
um, because our parents were watching the other kids. We had every bad thing possible happen. And my first thought was like, did I get a hitchhiker while I was out there? Are
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
hitchhiker. For those who don't know, people refer to that, and I've heard this in UFO situations or just any kind of other paranormal situations. When you're around something that's paranormal, whether invited or not, sometimes it will follow you.
Mhm.
Now, so I talked to one person about that, and they're Catholic, and they're like, "Oh, you committed a mortal sin." I do not believe that. I believe I'm washed in the blood of Jesus Christ, and no matter what, I cannot be possessed. I cannot have an evil spirit in me. Now, maybe we can get followed, we can be harassed, but I do not believe that I had committed a mortal sin that caused any kind of evil entity to come into my heart or something. Um, and that was not trash on Catholics. That was just something that he said was doctrinal or something. But and I kept thinking about that. So and here's another thing. I never smelled anything bad that night, which typically if
Mm.
I was that close to a Sasquatch, I figured I would smell something bad like rotten eggs.
Yeah,
Um,
that definitely goes hand in hand, that
mhm.
smell. Mhm. For sure.
I smelled nothing bad that night. But I kept wondering to myself, the weird howl and growl I heard that night, um, that's not a Sasquatch noise either. Now that was a
Mhm.
ways off. That wasn't near where the rocks were or whatever it was that was paralleling me. So I kept trying to think, why did I feel like I got like cursed or had so much calamity afterwards? Um, Now I don't know how much you research things like Dogman,
Yeah.
um, but something that does correlate with Dogman encounters or activity is really, I don't know what I don't know how to word it, but like bad luck or curses. Like people will have really bad uh, they'll have really bad luck. And I'm using that word in like the nebulous sense, not like I believe in actual like karma and luck and stuff, but
Right.
you'll just have
No,
a
that
bad
makes
week.
sense.
You'll have bad
Yeah.
situations following you afterwards. And I can't, man, I wish I could remember what this was. I think I was watching a documentary from Small Town Monsters. Do you ever watch their stuff?
Yeah,
Fun,
they're good.
phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, but someone talked, it described a, uh, a Dogman encounter, and they were imitating it, and they made the exact same howl and growl noise that I heard. And when I heard that, I had been kind of thinking, like, what if there's? I mean, I'm really getting out there, but I've been thinking about this for years.
Yeah.
What if there's a Dogman and a Sasquatch in that area? Because I do believe that there's probably something super weird out there. I know it's close to the Marley Woods, whatever that actually is. I know there's Skinwalker Ranch, which apparently George Norrie from Coast to Coast has had like um special tours down there. Um
Yeah, you were saying that. That's kind of cool.
it's in that area. The Osage Indians lived on that creek, or they lived in the caves in that area. There's a whole town that got wiped out during the war. Those woods are spooky in some way, shape, or form. And I keep thinking like maybe it's a thin space. Maybe there's it's a veil space there. But
Mhm.
I've heard, but whenever I heard that encounter with the dogman, and they described the exact same noise that I heard, it was a single howl that turned into a deep guttural growl. Um, and then it was right after then, not right after, but shortly after that, I heard that noise. That's when something big was paralleling me, and rocks were also being thrown. Well, originally, the rocks were thrown beforehand too, but I know it sounds weird, but I've often wondered over time, like, what if I was being shielded? You
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
I know it sounds really weird, it's really out there, but it's just something I thought about for a long time. Because I've heard other stories where people were, like, kinda protected or, if people were encountering they had situations where maybe it was a dog man that, like, somehow Sasquatch had kind of been in the middle. Um, I know it sounds super weird, but those are just some of my theories.
No, it actually, I mean, I've heard the same thing too, and I know that there's a lot of, I probably should have done more research myself. I'll probably do that on the back end and look into like dogman encounters and Bigfoot encounters in that area and see what I can like come up with and let you know. Because I should be putting it on my own encounter map because that's the whole point of the thing. But
Yeah,
I'm like really like lazy with it for some reason. We've had a lot of like going on in my house like
I
just
get it,
generally,
yeah.
but like um no, that when you tell the story, that's kind of what I got a sense of was that whatever that entity was, I'm just going to call it an entity for, because we don't really know what it was
I
that you
never
experienced. Yeah.
I never saw anything.
Right.
So
And I mean,
that's
that's not to discount it, but it's just like, maybe just for the sake of just saying like whatever that was, there was definitely, it seems like you're like a covering energy trying to
yeah,
get you out of there. And then um whatever that growl was, that
it
probably
wasn't a hog.
wasn't.
It
Yeah.
wasn't it I don't think there's wolves in the area, but it was not a coyote. Which
Yeah.
the weird thing is the next two times I was out there, I heard coyotes all night. Um, I did not hear a single coyote that night either, and coyotes don't make howls like that, and then that turned into real guttural growls either. Um, Man, it was such a crazy night. And I thank God I'm alive. Let
Oh
alone
yeah.
the weird paranormal encounter, the fact that I got out of the wilderness. I didn't dehydrate and die. I didn't get lost and get bit by a rattlesnake, which it wasn't until I went back the second time I didn't know we had rattlesnakes in Missouri.
Right.
Um, and the fact that I didn't drown in the river, um, man, just thank God. Wow. Um,
Have you
Yeah.
talked to anybody like really like have you talked to like a pastor or anything to try to process this like
Mm-mm.
any yeah,
I mean,
like
I've, I, I,
on the spiritual side of it?
I talk to people. Like I told my Bible study leader once. I've talked to friends, but um, no, I don't think I've really talked to any spiritual leaders in that aspect. I mean, if people ask, I tell them.
Yeah.
Like because the stories come up a couple times here and there, and I'm like, yeah, I think I had a Bigfoot encounter. But no, I haven't really talked to anyone spiritually about it.
And after the week that when you came back, you said you felt like you had a hitchhiker. Did that just subside? Was that something that
I
you?
was gonna say after that week, it just life went back to normal. And you know what? It could have just been a really bad week, but
Yeah.
it was the same week that my wife got COVID. My kid all of a sudden had seizures. We had two cars break down. My brother-in-law had a seizure and had to go to the hospital. And something else might have happened. I don't even remember, but it was a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible week. And I kept thinking like if I had encountered a dog man, typically really bad luck follows a dogman encounter, and I don't know why. You
Hmm.
just bad stuff happens. Um, because I remember thinking like, was it a dogman? Um, or was it Bigfoot? And then it took me a while to think like maybe it was both. I don't know, and maybe it was neither. I don't know what happened that night. But it was weird. It was a very
Yeah.
weird encounter. Yeah, but when Chris and I went back and we heard the wood knocks, psh, you can't take that from me. That was Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So do you feel, I mean, do you feel like it's something that you want to keep exploring or are you kind of
Yeah.
just content with it? Yeah.
I
Hmm.
love it. I don't know where else I feel like I can go and genuinely have like a weird Bigfoot encounter, and
Right.
it's just really cool, and it's very adventurous, so I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome.
there's gosh, I think that kind of sums up that story. Nothing else weird happened when I after the Wood Knocks story. Now, the second time, and I can't. The stories are way too long. It's like another hour, but
Yeah,
um,
I'll definitely have you come back on and tell another story for sure because
okay.
I know you have a couple. Yeah.
I was gonna say because
Yeah.
we might have seen the second time. I'm pretty sure we saw orbs.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and then
Mm.
the second time we tried to go, they're the forest rangers found us out of nowhere, and they were just like, "Oh, we're doing a forest burn tonight. You can't come in the forest." And we're like, "That's weird." Um, and so we decided just to hike on the Ozark Trail, which is a trail that goes across the whole state. Um, and I think it goes through the forest or the wilderness at some point, but we decided just to hike on there. So we're like 10 miles away. Um, and we never saw any fire, which is weird
Mm.
because out there you can see like the glow for a while. But oh no, they were doing a burn, and then they said they were doing aerial hog hunting, and they said it sounds like
Really?
Vietnam at night. Yeah, really
Oh my
weird. And
gosh.
I was like, oh, good thing I didn't see any feral hogs out there when I was out there. We didn't hear a single gunshot all night because we were on the edge of the wilderness because we were just in the Mark Twain, just in random wilderness on the Ozark Trail. It's like a very
Hmm.
very miniature version of the Appalachian Trail. Um,
Okay.
but that night we're pretty sure we did get stalked by something. I guess
Hmm.
I won't go into all of it, but it's super weird. Like somebody was following us on the trail with like a two-legged gate, and then we woke up to people in our campsite like running off, like going through our stuff. Somebody was rattling like a tin can in the middle of the forest. It was super
What?
weird. That's a story for another time. Uh,
Yeah, definitely. Oh man.
super
Gosh.
weird,
Nick, that's crazy.
dude. I know. So like that's why I'm addicted to going down there because weird stuff happens and I like it.
Yeah. Do you now let me I don't know. I kind of want to ask you like do you feel like led to be like prayed up or do you take this before the Lord and say like hey, is this cool? Like I mean or do you feel like it's fine?
I feel like it's fine, but I mean
Yeah.
not to be like sound braggadocious when I say it, but I always pray before I do anything in general.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't think this is me after a long time of praying and soul searching and researching. Like I don't think pursuing like Bigfoot, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong in that.
Mhm.
If I was out looking for something like Dogman or looking for ghosts, I feel like that's something that you probably shouldn't be doing just because of the like for Dogman, there's nothing about Dogman that's not evil
Yeah.
or sinister.
Yeah.
There's never reports or accounts of good things happening. Um, and so, but with Bigfoot, I know it sounds silly, but I genuinely feel at peace. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I don't need to, like I'm not crossing any weird thresholds.
Right.
Um, but in general, I do pray before I go do any kind of fun expedition. But I just feel fine about it. Sorry, long answer.
No, no, I always just, I mean, I guess the more that I kind of hear and research myself, like I always want to, I guess that's always my question, especially if you're a believer,
Mhm.
how do you feel about that? Like, I mean, I think it's best to like ask permission instead of having to apologize later, because
Yeah,
then
and
I've been in situations where I've gotten like a big slap on the hand for things. So,
yeah. No,
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I always pray before I do stuff like that in general, but it's not something where I
Hmm.
feel like I'm asking God, like, should I be doing that?
Yeah.
But there's times though when I have been going to go out there and I just feel like the Lord put on my heart, like, don't go this weekend, stay with your family. And I've just been like, okay, maybe God
Yeah.
just wants me to hang out with my family this weekend, So, you know,
Right.
um, but yeah,
That is
yeah,
such a wild story. Oh
it
my
is. It
gosh.
is
It
wild.
really, really is.
There's I don't even know, but so I have a cousin who lives in Donovan, Missouri. So that's the town that borders the Irish wilderness.
Hmm.
And I text her after this happened, and I said, "Oh, hey, I got lost in your neck of the woods recently, literally." And she says, "Oh, where were you?" And I was like, "I was in the Irish wilderness." And she goes, "Oh, we never go there. Everyone knows it's haunted." And I was like, "What?"
Really?
And she said her and her sister and mom went hiking there years ago, and they found like a weird altar in the woods, and they never went back.
Ooh.
So then I
Yeah.
did some more research online, and there's a book called like Haunted Missouri, and there's a whole chapter
Hmm.
dedicated just to the Irish wilderness. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to like look up just like general stuff about that place because it just seems crazy.
I know it's wild, and I just stumbled there
Yeah.
on accident. Really, I mean, I just a reckless hike, so changed
Yeah.
my life. So pretty cool.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for coming on. This
No,
has
thank
been
you for
really
having
fun.
me. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks for dealing with my
definitely.
rambling. I
No,
hope your viewers
good.
can stick with me. I'm so sorry. It's all the caffeine so late at night.
I
Um,
know. You're all
so
jazzed up on the on the coffee.
I know now I'm gonna
Um,
be like super sleepy at church tomorrow because I stayed up way too late.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh man, it's like 10:30 here. But I'm an old lady.
Thank you. Sorry.
I'm an old lady that's got to go to church tomorrow. No, but it's just really it's really been such a cool experience hearing your story. I kind of like to have people on just to like tell their stories instead of like interrupting with if I find that if you let people just kind of talk and tell their story, they tell it the way they are, and then they're just gonna all the questions you'll eventually get answered anyway. So, you know,
Awesome.
yeah,
I
no, you
thought it was
didn't
fun, so
ramble.
thank you.
Yeah. So, well, I definitely want to have you back on to hear some more stories. So we'll have to get that. Hopefully, it won't take 6 months, but I know you're busy.
Hopefully not. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So this has been great. So yeah, guys, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and kind of what you're working on? If it's just their Instagram, just let them know.
Yeah. If you go to right now on my Facebook, still has my business name on it, so it's Kevlar Joe's Coffee Company. It's the only one out there. If you Google it, it's the only one that comes up. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm the only coffee core that comes up.
Hmm.
So just look up coffee core, and there's some pretty fire coffee memes with metal themes. So
Yes. Oh, they're awesome. They're so good. Yes, everybody go
appreciate it.
follow. Go follow Nick right now. So guys, thank you so much for listening, and remember that the truth is out there, God is with you, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen. All right, I'm gonna
Amen.
You have been listening to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I'm Christina, and thank you so much for tuning in. Sasquatch and Sourdough is so much more than just a podcast. We are a community of kindred spirits, united by our curiosity and fascination with the extraordinary. And we want to bring you into the conversation. So whether you've had a brush with the unexplainable, seen something that you can't quite wrap your head around, this is your space. We invite you to join us as we break bread and break down the barriers between the known and the unknown. If you want to share your story, you can email us at sasquatchandsourdough@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram. Until next time, remember, the truth is out there, God is with you, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen.